So now let's take a look at respiratory volumes and capacities. So respiratory volumes are, amounts of air we're taking into and out of our lungs, and, capacities is a combination of those volumes. So the first respiratory volume we're going to look at is what is known as a tidal volume, also abbreviated TV. This is the amount of air inhaled or exhaled with each breath under resting conditions. So what you're doing right now, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And that is about 500 milliliters. So this is breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So about 500 milliliters. It's, about half of this, probably 3/4 of this is 500 milliliters. Anyway, so next is the inspiratory reserve volume, also known as the IRV. This is the amount of air that can be forcefully inhaled after a normal tidal volume inhalation. So we take in a normal breath, and then we take in as much air as we possibly can. That's the inspiratory reserve volume right there. All right, and this is about 3,000 milliliters, and I know most of you guys don't think in milliliters, so 3,000 milliliters is equivalent to 3 liters, all right? And a liter is a little bit more than a quart, so it takes 4 quarts to a gallon, so we're talking about 3/4 of a gallon of air that we inhale in that inspiratory reserve volume. So that's just doing, yep. Next is our expiratory reserve volume, or ERV. This is the amount of air that can be forcefully exhaled after a normal tidal volume exhalation. So this is trying to show that expiratory reserve volume right there. So you take a normal breath out and then exhale even more air out. That's your expiratory reserve volume. And this is about 1,100 milliliters. All these numbers vary from person to person, but this is, essentially the average. Next is the residual volume, so RV. This is the amount of air remaining in the lungs after a forced exhalation. So that's this air right here, that residual volume. This is the amount of air you can't exhale out of your air even if you tried. So as much as I could try to exhale all the air out of my lungs, there's still air in my lungs after that. So, I can't get rid of it all. All right, now let's move on to respiratory capacities. And this is where we combine these different volumes. So the first is our total lung capacity, or TLV. That's the amount of air contained in the lungs after a maximum inspiratory effort. So as I take in as deep a breath as I can, that's all the air that's in my lungs. So our total lung capacity, you can see here, is a combination of all these other volumes together, all right? And this is about 5,800 milliliters, all right? So like a gallon and a half of air. Next is our vital capacity. Our vital capacity is the maximum amount of air that can be expired after a maximum inspiratory effort, all right? So meaning you take in as deep a breath as you can, and you exhale out as much air as you possibly can. That is a tidal volume. And a tidal volume is about 80% of our total lung capacity. We can't figure out what your total lung capacity is because we can't measure that, unless we take your lungs out of your body and we pump air into them. But we can measure your vital capacity, which could give us an indication of what your total lung capacity is. And so you can see over here, vital capacity is made up of everything but the residual volume because you can't exhale that air. Next is our inspiratory capacity. This is the maximum amount of air that can be inspired after a normal expiration. And that's a combination of the tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume. So there's the inspiratory capacity. So just combining those two volumes there together. Next is our functional residual capacity. And this is a volume of air remaining in the lungs after a normal tidal volume expiration. So, that's all of this is our functional residual capacity. So why we call it functional is because this is the normal situation, right? So this is how much air is in your lungs pretty much all the time. So that's about 2,300 milliliters. Now, even so, we have all these volumes in here, we have what is known as anatomical dead space. And this is a volume of the air that refills the conducting respiratory passages. So this is air that's in our nasal cavity, our pharynx, our larynx, our trachea, and our bronchi. And this is about 150 milliliters. So when you think about this, we inhale 500 milliliters with every normal breath, but 150 of that still remains in that anatomical dead space. So when we talk about what actually makes it into our lungs, is we only get really about 350 milliliters of new air into our lungs on a normal breathing method. How we measure these things is through this thing called a spirometer. You know, if you guys are going to be around for the lab that we're going to do on this, you would be able to use one. But, you know, I'm talking to you through a video because we're not going to do that lab in person. So